Breaking tonight, 3 cold-blooded attacks in 3 months in England and no signs of sheer terror abating anytime soon. In March, a lone wolf killed 4 people in a brutal rampage at the Parliament. 2 weeks later, in Manchester, or 2 weeks ago rather, a suicide bomber murdered 22. Children were among the dead there. And now 50 hours ago, 7 innocent lives taken by terrorists on London Bridge and Borough Market. British Prime Minister Theresa May and London Mayor Sadiq Khan are taking heat for their reserved responses to the terror. But President Trump not holding back what he thinks in a series of tweets saying this: pathetic excuse by London Mayor Sadiq Khan, who had to think fast on his, quote, no reason to be alarmed statement. MSM, mainstream media, working hard to sell it, he says. Joining me now, chairman of the Quilliam think tank and a former Islamic extremist, Maajid Nawaz. Maajid, thank you for being here tonight. It's good to have you with us this evening. You know, you listened to that list, and we played the soundbite from our last conversation back in March when you warned that there would be much more to come. I suppose you're sorry you were right.
Indeed. And I think we have to come to terms, Martha, with the fact that Europe, Britain and the rest of Europe are in the midst of a full-blown jihadist insurgency. You were citing figures earlier that our security services are attempting to monitor around 23,000 suspected jihadists. That, by the way, is out of a population in the UK of just 5% that are Muslim, which means that 23,000 from 4 million Muslims in this country, and around those 23,000, that's those who are jihadists, around them will be those who sympathize with the ideology, Islamists, who believe in establishing a caliphate, and around them those who empathize with their friends who happen to be Islamists. If that's not insurgency levels, I don't know what is.
I mean, it is just terrifying to look at the growth of this in so many places. You think of Belgium, you think of Paris. So what do you think? You know, there are some who, we had another attack here today in Orlando, which was of a very different nature. But some people look at these as just individual incidents of violence, you know, and people who are off balance and who are violent, you know, based on other things. What do you say to people who sort of have that perspective of what's going on in your country right now?
It's an absolute insult to people who suffer from mental illness, the majority of whom, by the way, medically, statistically we know, the majority of people who suffer from mental illness are not violent. In fact, they are the victims of violence. And it's an insult to people who suffer genuinely from medical conditions of mental health issues to accuse or to scapegoat terrorism as simply loners who are suffering from mental health. It may be a bit of that involved, but frankly, in every case we look at, there are networks involved. Radicalization has happened. These jihadist terrorists are indoctrinated by an ideology that believes first and foremost that their particular and very specific view of Islam must be imposed on everybody else and by force when necessary. Take these 2 attackers, for example, Khurram Butt and Rashid Radwan. They hailed, especially Khurram Butt is known to have hailed from the Al-Muhajirun network. Al-Muhajirun was led in the UK until recently by Anjam Chowdhury, who was convicted and is now in prison for having sworn allegiance to ISIS. Al-Muhajirun effectively in the UK was the wing of ISIS that was active and operating in the United Kingdom. In turn, Al-Muhajirun itself was a splinter group of a broader organization that remains legal, my former group, Hizb ut-Tahrir. And so for decades in Europe and in Britain, organizations that espouse the Islamist ideology, want to impose their view of Islam on everybody else, these organizations have been indoctrinating young people like I was at 16 when I joined. Yeah. I'm now 40 this year, so that's how long this has been going on. And they've been telling these young kids that democracy is for the infidels, it's filthy, that secularism is heresy, and we must fight against it. These are by no means loners or people that didn't emerge from the milieu that I've just described. And as I said, it's reached insurgency levels, and we must begin to adopt counter-insurgency measures. And that's where I think, whether of the left of the political spectrum, Sadiq Khan is a Labour mayor, or of the right, Theresa May, too little has been done, and frankly, it's too late. And we need to start looking at long-term solutions.
We need your insight across the board here, and we really thank you for being here tonight. Do you think that Theresa May will win on Thursday, before I let you go?
I think she is set to win. Her tone changed after this recent attack, and she has reverted to the tone of former Prime Minister David Cameron, who took this issue of extremism incredibly seriously. And it took, unfortunately, 3 attacks in as many months in the United Kingdom for Theresa May to not just worry about how the United Kingdom exits from the European Union, but also to recognise that terrorism is here to stay and isn't going away.
As former Home Secretary, it has been on her plate in the past, to be sure. Maajid, thank you very much. Very good to have you with us tonight.
Thank you.